Enjoy yourself. It's a celebration. Welcome back.
You missed my hands in this episode.
Oh, my fault. Well, you know what? You are free to get up and get a fork yourself. I can't believe you just said that as if I was going to hop up and get that. Wow. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
We are back from the motherland.
Back from the motherland.
Back from my ancestors. Having been blessed. You see a little bit of tan. That's that nice, warm African sun. It's giving you that nice glow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just you were. You know what? It's funny. I was sharing some shots, and I shared the one on our last video, like our last day, and I put it into my carousel, and I was like, I think I put the saturation up too high. I took the photo. I was like, there was zero saturation. Jesse was like a lobster.
Nope. That was just a nice pink hue. That's all.
Like, oh.
And that was with wearing SPF 100 every single day.
But it was well worth it. Okay. We're going to talk about everything Benin today and our experience and what we have coming up, because the travel vlog that we're putting together is going to be really, really, really epic, and we're so excited about the content. But first, one thing that made you happy this week.
Ooh.
I think I know yours.
Yeah, being back with the fam.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, being back with the family was amazing. Don't realize how much you miss people until you're gone from them for a whole week. And so to get to see them, they came and picked me up from the airport. And they're just all excited.
Oh, goodness.
And the next time I went and left for work, I said, all right, see you guys later. Be back in 10 days. And Pearl, she's side-eyed. She was like, no, you're not. You're coming back again.
You're coming back. Because we've already discussed this together when you weren't here. So there'll be no more.
Yeah. But what about you? What made you happy this week?
You know what? Quite a few things. I think creatively, the trip just did me really well.
Yeah.
It did me good just to get outside. And I always feel that way after traveling anywhere. Yeah. But specifically like abroad, you start thinking about other things. And so that was good. But this is going to sound crazy, but the thing that made me happy this week is I got some pretty good rest on Friday and Saturday. I've never done this before, but I literally passed out on Friday at 9 because I was still jet lagged. I thought I was doing well, but no, every single day around.
It lasts a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was
like,
surprised.
Me too. I was crashing at 4 p.m. every single day. I'm trying to like wake myself up.
Yeah.
But I crashed on Friday and I woke up on the couch at like 11 o'clock or so, went to sleep at 9, didn't mean to. It's like, well, let me just go ahead and go to bed. Didn't wake up till 9 the next day. Did not get up at all. I slept through. And this is someone, I get up at 5 a.m. regardless. Yeah. Like I have to get up and start the day. I'm like an old person, like, it's too much sleeping in.
Have dinner early enough, so
I have my supper. So you can go ahead and do that. But no, I slept in, man, and it was great. It was great. To feel rejuvenated, and just the takeaways from the trip, just ruminating on those throughout the week has also been a moment of happiness, lots of moments of happiness.
Have you talked to many people about the trip yet?
No, some friends have, asked, and they're out, and everyone always says like, I hate when people ask me this, but how was your trip?
Yeah.
And that's a frustrating question for this trip. Just because
so much.
Yeah, and you can't really put this into words. It was an experience. Yeah. So to give you just some background information, we partnered up with this agency called Wademba Travel Experiences, and emphasis on the experiences. And this guy, his name is Neil Olympio. He's actually in investment banking, and he, his family is from Benin. And so he had this idea with his wife that he really wanted to tell the story of the country a lot more and to encourage tourism. So we started up this company while also doing his main job. And I think out of all the trips we've been on, and I've been on quite a few tours with different organizations and whatnot, this was by far one of the best because it was so thoughtful. Yeah. It was jam-packed, which is something else, but it was very thoughtful, I thought. And so rather than just go there and see the culture, he curated an experience where you can actually live it and be in it and immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, it was amazing. And even to see see plans on paper change, but still they kind of seamlessly made it all make sense. And it was all intentional. There was a reason for everything we did.
Yeah.
And even coming back, like you said, we didn't expect the days to be as long as they were.
No.
But that's because literally we came back and they had something for us to do. They had a dinner plan. They had something they wanted to show us. They wanted us to be immersed. And it was unbelievable, which is why it's so hard to kind of really tell people face to face just what the trip was like, because it was a full-blown experience.
So we have this vlog coming up, and I'm gonna ask us both to answer 3 questions about the trip. I'm really excited about this creative piece rather than any other. I'm always excited about them, but this one just feels so special. We spent a lot of time prior to the trip storyboarding. I was researching everything, so that way, when we're on the ground creatively, we don't have to be spending time trying to figure stuff out, and it makes it easier for Jesse. So he's, he's got his cues and his shot list too. So this vlog that we're putting together, y'all, is going to be like none other.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be real good.
Okay. So actually, you know what? First, let me ask you this question that some people have asked me.
Okay.
About you. How did Jesse feel being the only white person there? And I always laugh because I get this question often. Maybe how does he feel being the only white person, or in certain scenarios? And it's funny because I never even asked myself that.
Yeah.
I never asked now, and I don't, because I think it's just the way that I read people's energy, and I can feel your energy. Yeah. And so when you start feeling nervous or whatnot, like when you put the snake around your snake, and I was like, hey, take this off of him.
It's time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously, take it off. Panic looks different on some people. He's actually panicking.
I'm okay.
So, how was it for you?
It's funny you bring that up, because I had a handful of people, friends on Instagram, that DM'd saying like, so I got a question. What's it like being the only white person in the room, basically, just kind of comparing it to themselves, saying like, oh yeah, I know how it feels sometimes when I'm in a certain grocery store in a certain part of town or something like that, speaking about being here in the States, about how they feel. I was just kind of telling them, one, I don't really notice. I'm working, I'm filming. Right. I'm pretty focused on doing that. People are staring, but I don't think it's because of my skin color necessarily. It's more so because I'm a cameraman and there's something going on clearly that people are looking at.
That's true, but those kids were calling you Ovo. Or was it Avo?
Ovo, yeah.
Ovo.
Yeah.
And so they told us was that in Manasi? Wait, Fudge, what's the language? Oh my gosh.
Minovo or something like that.
Oh, it's something Okay. I have to go back and get our...
I digress.
Yeah, we had anyway, but they were calling Jesse that, and they told us the story. They're like, hey, if you ever hear this, they're saying white person.
Yeah.
So he's walking in the street, Ovo. Like, all the way down the block.
Yep. So lots of stares, lots of getting up close and wanting to look at the tattoos as well. I have a bear tattoo on one of my arms, so they'd see it and they'd be like, I make noises and stuff like that, But I mean, as far as how I feel, I don't think I ever felt uncomfortable anywhere I was going. There's some of the most welcoming, nice people I've ever met. Whether you're just showing up briefly for a couple seconds, people would sometimes turn away, but that's more so because they didn't want their face to be on camera.
Right.
Which I think they're familiar with probably being put on camera and not knowing what for.
Yeah.
So for us, it was a little bit different because we were going and actually saying hello, meeting people, wanting to learn a little bit about what they were doing, whether it was a little food spot they had on the side of the road selling fruits and veggies, or actually sitting down and eating with people. So
right.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point about like interviewing people and being on and talking to people. So that's something that we really value, and I want everyone to know here that the people that we spoke with, they were compensated in some way, either by Wademba or by us, and sometimes both.
Yeah.
I just carry cash on me, and so whenever we do an interview or just asking anybody if the kids are on camera, we'll make sure we have candy and other stuff to kind of give to them. So that way, it's just not like it may not be equitable, but at least we are sowing those seeds. I want people to know that we don't take that lightly.
Yeah, we're not out there just to
Yeah.
do whatever we want.
And I'm not sure who brought it up. Maybe it was Neil's brother or something, but it was, I think, because they gave us our own bombas, and that was that we got fitted for that. And I don't know, somebody said something about, oh, I guess you have to worry about cultural appropriation or so. And I thought, it's like, oh, wow, they ended that like all the way over here.
That was interesting. Yeah.
And their perspective was like,
yeah, they were like, well, look,
we actually like it.
we're happy if you're an outsider and you're wearing our threads, basically, you know, like they were like, we welcome it. And
Right.
so, but it was good because I like what you brought up to Neil about why it's a thing here in the States, because cultures are taken advantage of and not given credit or anything.
You'll see a bombas here in the States, and they won't even like talk about that they got it from Benin or for some other country. So I think that's a different thing if you're going to be making money off of it and taking advantage of that. First question, most exciting part for you?
Most exciting part, man, the Black River had a lot of anticipation behind it, being just a really beautiful experience. And so I think it was really exciting to do that for me, and just to kind of see and learn a little bit about the history behind that river, and then even see kind of how people have utilized the river through the years too, whether it be like we saw little fishing traps set up that they showed us a demo of how they used them, you know, and talked about how they harvested like palm wine from the trees that are there, and all that stuff is amazing. And then as you're learning all this information, you're kind of in a picturesque, like another planet almost, like it's a wonder world of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, every picture was a postcard.
Yeah,
like naturally.
But that was one of the most exciting things, I think, between that and I was kind of just blown away by the mouth of the King, where the river met the ocean. Like I was just kind of like, what is happening right now? This is really cool.
Yeah, going up on that and seeing just how aggressive the waves were, just kind of washing up over the beach. I mean, and the mouth of the river, they call it Rouge des Bois, right?
The Bouche de Rock?
Yeah, Bouche des Bois.
Yeah.
Our French was terrible, but let me tell you, we had our little translator app, and we also had a translator with us the entire time.
Bonjour.
So, yeah, because that's about all we knew. I said, Je m'appelle Kevin.
Yes.
And then later the question.
Yeah.
Oui, bon.
Well, yeah, getting that, like, seeing the drone when we took it up and looked at the screen, and seeing just how powerful the ocean is meeting this river, and the colors are mixing, because you see the dirtier water from the river and then the clear water from the ocean.
And technically, from that view, we can actually see Togo, because the Mono River actually separates Togo from Benin. So it's funny that they talk about Togo and Nigeria and Burkina Faso like people on the East Coast talk about going to Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. They're just like, oh yeah, we just went over there. So it's really connected. And they're all right there, you know, kind of like grouped together. And there's so much history there too. This is with the borders, so you never really know. Like, okay, I think for me the most exciting part, maybe I thought the Gambier, that one I shared. No, the Zangbeto. The Zangbeto Dance is probably the most exciting. So in the past, so first off, there are three main religions there: Christianity, Voodoo, and Islam. Right? But it's not the same voodoo that we kind of think about in the States, the way that we think about in movies and whatnot. It's not just like pins and stuff. It's a legit type of like practice. I mean, not that it wasn't before, but they have some similarities in the way they, you know, like communicate with God or the ancestors or the oracle, the same way that, you know, Christianity does with Christ and through the priest and et cetera, et cetera. So that was really interesting to see. But back in the day, the voodoo warriors, the night warriors would get ready to protect the village, and they would do this dance, and it was a warrior dance called like Zangbeto. Now, that was in the past. Today, it's kind of evolved into something that's a lot more celebratory for villages to do. And it's hard to explain, but just imagine the most colorful figure with like different colors and frills and I don't know, hair.
It's cone shaped, but then there's colorful, almost like a stringer hair almost.
Yeah. Almost created. Like it's like a horse mane or something, but it's different colors and there's different structures with it. Just watch the vlog because it's something you've never seen before. And what it is the Zangbeto is empty. So there's a spirit that is inside of it. And when I tell you, we pulled up at was it 5:30 or so? I know that they were already drumming and singing. They did not stop.
I still hear it.
Drumming and singing and dancing until nightfall, which was about 9 p.m. where you couldn't see anything anymore. That's how long the celebration went. And they could have gone longer if there was more sun.
They were going.
Yeah, and that was probably the most exciting part because just being able to be a part of that and and it was nice, a nice cultural experience.
Yeah, and let's just say if you've been to a illusion show on the Vegas Strip or something like that, these guys blew those people out of the water, and they don't have lights, stages, nothing. They're out there just in a courtyard putting on this performance, and you got to watch the vlog because your mind's gonna be blown. You'll be scratching your head how they do some of this stuff.
Yes, I'm gonna save that for the blog because it's something that you have to experience and see.
Yeah.
So what was the most surprising part? Maybe I'll start with this one because it flows into what you were saying about there's no technology. One thing that I was surprised about is that there are so many ancient ways that are still preserved. They were doing back in the 1600s today. Yeah. From salt production, I'm talking about zero technology whatsoever to do salt production in the country, the fishing, farming techniques, everything there was just by nature organic. Yeah. They don't really believe in all that stuff. In fact, they were telling the story how someone had asked, and they're like, what is that? What is it? What is the pesticide? What is that?
Doesn't exist there. Yeah.
They're like, no, why would you do that? Yeah. And so it was very refreshing to see that there are so many things that were preserved over the centuries. And so, really paying homage to the ancestors that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Most surprising, I'd say a little bit similar. It's just kind of like the overall way of life, I would say. Like generally when you're traveling through, you have like cities and you have villages, right? Like you have differences in how people live. From a Western perspective, you look at it and you're like, oh, well, the people there in the villages, maybe they're like more poor, more hungry, maybe they're just not as well off, right? That is not the case whatsoever. Yeah. It's two different ways of living your lifestyle. But when you look at like our Western, like capitalistic way of doing things, it's so easy to look at a village and think like, oh, like they just don't, they're in the past. Like they need to progress more or something like that,
Absolutely. And I mean, and I don't even know if it's capitalism technically, to be fair.
Sure.
Like it's just more resources.
Yeah.
Or developed, right? I think, which is actually probably the most aha moment for me. Yeah. So not the other stuff of the ancient ways, but the most aha moment was that conversation with Roland. Yeah. So we're at lunch, y'all, and one of our guides, he only speaks French. He was on Instagram. And he's sitting there scrolling. So he said to the interpreter, he looked really concerned. He's like, is this the U.S.? And it was a TikTok video or some reel of the homelessness situation in Philadelphia. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, yeah. I said it like it was nothing. And he said, why are people living like this? He didn't understand. Yeah. And so what he says is shocking. He said, I mean, I don't understand why people don't just come to Africa. We can teach you how to farm. You don't have to pay these taxes that we were talking about taxes. He's like, you don't have to pay that. I'll show you how to farm. You can do this. And he's pointing to these villages, right? Yeah. That way, like we're thinking like they probably just starving and stuff like that. They're actually looking at us that way. Yeah. They're looking at us with living on the streets. Yeah. They're like, No, we have a roof over our heads.
Yeah.
You don't have a roof on your head.
Yeah.
Why don't you come over here and we can show you how to survive and fend for yourself.
Yeah.
So I thought that was shocking to, like, to that point. I was like, oh man, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of like rethink this whole, I don't know, Western savior idea too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's kind of like a feel good thing, like do this stuff that's actually needed.
Yeah. It's like you're going over there to try to offer these people relief and they don't actually necessarily need, like, they're just fine.
No.
They're thriving over there.
Can you help us build this highway?
Yeah.
That's what we really want. Can you?
They should come over here and teach people how to farm, self-sustain a little bit, not have to buy.
Well, they talked about that, and we did a sit-down podcast interview, and we're going to release that around the time of the vlog with these 6 amazing women with Beninese background, I think. Some of them weren't exactly, but one thing that they said was with the development in Benin, that historically countries and companies would come in and pretty much exploit and stuff, and then when the project was over, they just take everything. And they're left with that lack of knowledge. And so if anything, what they're trying to do this time around, because there's about $1 billion that's going into tourism for a 2025 launch, they want to make sure that, if you come over here to help to build this building or this highway, you also have to teach us how to do that. You have to leave those skills here. You can't just go and take. And so I thought that was a really good point.
That's really good. Now keeping it in Benin, making sure the skill sets are growing and stays pure that way too.
I was kind of surprised to know too about the colonial tax. So we're on one of the tours.
Talk about a surprising moment.
So the colonial I didn't know this, y'all, but there are several West African countries that still pay a colonial tax, better name for it is reparations, to some European countries as a way to pay back those countries for the developments that they did in their country because of slavery.
So like building a hospital or a road or something like that.
Which when he said it, I was like, let me make sure I understood this. So I had to repeat it back to the translator. He's like, and I just could not believe that in the year of our Lord 2023, this far, but this close to slavery too, that it's really audacious. Like, and I don't listen, and I've been lightly doing some research, and I'm going to continue to go ahead and do so. But just on the surface level, I've just got to say that is the most audacious act I have ever heard. Because if that is the actual premise, well, France didn't become an economy out of nowhere. They didn't become an economy because they were building highways in Benin. No, they were using that slave labor to bolster their economy, and then have the audacity to ask to pay them back. I was flabbergasted because I'm thinking, man, I wonder how that would play out here in the States.
Bit of a revolt of sorts.
If the reparations were kind of flipped, I thought I did not know that.
No, neither did I. That and the art piece too. Well, one of our translators is actively working to make sure that art that European countries have is properly returned to Benin. That's Benin art, and it's like a whole ordeal. It's
they
not
won't
just
return it.
They say nope. We
can preserve it.
We can preserve it better. Yeah, we can do a better job of holding this. And that's like, okay.
And let me tell you about the preservation, which is crazy. But we were walking in the same kingdoms that they built back in the 1600s. And they are well kept. Like, well kept.
It's almost like getting to hop in a time machine when you see some of these places, because it's preserved so well. You see very minor modern things that have been added on, like a tin roof maybe instead of using mud and straw.
Well, remember that the tin roof actually came back then too. It was a modern advancement, but it was something too that came around the 1800s when they learned about that material to go ahead and do. But I thought the main modern thing were the solar panels on top. Because they didn't have lights and stuff. So you could see the wires from the solar panel because it's just so hot and there's not a lot of trees around. So it's just beating down, just like perfect
really
electricity.
Cool. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, that so that whole thing about preserving it is just, anyway, what do you say about that too when you go to a country? Because you don't want to really impose your own like Western belief system. You kind of want to just be in that moment.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that with something with this type of news? Because I couldn't unsee that from my Western point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it just, for as like progressive as we're supposed to be here in the West, it just makes it seem like we're really not, because we're not willing to have conversations about reparations like here. It's just pushed off as like, what are you talking about? That's just something that happened a long time ago. We're past that, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to mess with it anymore. And it's like, you're just sweeping it under the rug. You're not actually trying to reconcile anything. You're not putting your money where your mouth is. You're not putting actions to your words. If you're just saying something, you're like, say I'm not racist all day long, but like, if I don't actively show that I'm not, it doesn't mean anything. And so it feels like we just have so much further to go in that conversation. And that's just my perspective on it.
What was the most impactful thing for you?
Most impactful thing, just the overall history of the country. Seeing the history of how the slave trade had its roots there. And getting to see kind of just the vastness of it, like seeing the villages where slaves were taken from, and seeing the places where they were sent off, and seeing how they went about to disorient these people and disconnect them from their families, and just the stories of what it was like trying to place yourself in these people's shoes that were getting ripped away from families, separated, disorient, like all this kind of stuff, tortured, like, and then just the countless stories of, enslaved people that wouldn't even make it to the boat because they would say, you know what, I'd rather die in my homeland than get on this boat and not know what my future holds.
So die in the land of my ancestors then.
Yeah.
Die in an unknown place.
And the vlog will go into the details of some of that stuff, and some of the symbolic things that we saw while we were there. And it's impactful heavy. As all get out. Yeah.
It's all those. It's impactful. It's heavy. It's enlightening. It's energizing. It's you like remember. You're memorializing it too. So you go through all the emotions. I'd have to say the most impactful thing for me too was the slavery tour, because you get to literally walk the same pathway that they had to walk. They literally walked 120 kilometers from the inside of the country down to the coast.
Yeah.
And that was just an incredible feeling when you're actually on that same road. And you're just thinking about like, man, I wonder how just hot it was. They're chained together, and they're flanked on all sides by the Amazon warriors, by the Amazon women warriors, because remember that they're no longer just enslaved Africans. They are commodity.
Yeah.
And so they get money for that. They were getting guns and goods.
Yeah.
So that was just a very impactful moment. I think that when they told us that we were going to be able to meet a king, and this is King Behanzi, and he was a descendant of, his name is not King Behanzi, but we were in the King Behanzi's initial palace.
Yeah.
And they said that we get to go meet him, and so we had to take off our shoes. You mean you walk barefoot in that movie, The Women King, where they're fighting in that little arena type of thing? It was literally that.
Yeah.
It was literally that. And then you go through another door, and there's another big courtyard, and that was where the main king would be. And then they built the roof really low.
Yeah.
So you couldn't really see inside if he was there or not. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But they said that we can go and meet with him, and we had to do that. We had to bow, forehead to the ground.
We had the wrap that we wore because we were wearing shorts.
Yeah, because they didn't want our legs could not be exposed, so they gave us an avo, which is like the beautiful prints, you know, like the bombas, and then you wrap it around your waist and you tuck it.
Yeah.
And I got me one to bring home because that was me. But they asked me, it threw me off guard. They was like, "Do you have any questions for the king?" And I honestly didn't prepare anything because I didn't know if he was going to be speaking or not, if he was going to be. And the only thing that came out of my mouth was like, it was the first thing, and I'm not even sure why. I said, "How does it feel to meet a descendant, you know, like an African American, a descendant of enslaved Africans?"
Yeah.
And what he said really just kind of spoke to me. He said, "How would a father feel seeing a long lost son?"
Yeah.
And you know, that just, it meant a lot. You know, and let me give this context too. I shared this post on social media just because that was one of the first things that we got to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, so not a lot of people, but there are several loud people who were just criticizing that. And saying that maybe it sends the wrong message, meeting with somebody who sold our ancestors like into slavery. Like, well, his ancestors sold our ancestors like into slavery. And he said something, and I want people to listen to this. This is why I got emotional. He said, "The ancestors receive you and the ancestors bless you." And I got emotional when he said that. When the slaves were captured, they had to walk 120 kilometers. And as Jesse said, that they wanted to disorient them. So they had to walk around the tree of forgetfulness 7 times. And doing that, it was symbolic of them leaving their homeland, detaching themselves from all cultures and what they knew. And then right before they get on the boat, they have to go around the tree of return. The tree of return was built upon three heads. It's part of a voodoo ceremony, and they walk around it 3 times. And what it is that when they die, their spirit will return back home, wherever they are. So if you die in America, if you die in the Caribbean, if you die in Europe, if you die in South America, you know, your spirit will come back. And I thought when he said the ancestors bless you, I'm literally thinking not the person who sold me into slavery, but you know, that could be something. But my ancestors that have returned, their spirits have returned, they said, "You're welcome and we're blessing you." And I just thought that just really, so it just goes to show, you know, first off, context is everything. I'm slower these days to comment on people's posts, especially when you haven't had that singular experience. And so I think that's the way I started it out too. It was like, I was surprised. I've never had this experience before. So until you don't really know how you would react in situations until you're actually forced with them. And that was a really unique experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big choice for anyone to choose to post a vulnerable moment on social media. So, you know, age-old adage, you know, anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Like the post or not and move on, you know, like have an experience. You could have a different thought about it. Couple months from now, and you could expound upon it, you know, who knows, but hey, like
or not. But that was the most impactful moment for me. So I guess looking forward, what are you most excited about after the trip?
I mean, sharing the video, obviously.
Me too.
But yeah, I mean, how we're gonna go about sharing it too. It's a little bit different than what we've done in the past. And I think it's going to show off the country in such a beautiful, educational, like enlightening way. And I'm just excited for people to see that and understand the context of some of the things we did, why we did it, you know, and see and hopefully experience just a little bit of what we did, you know? So yeah.
Same. I'm excited about the creativity that's flowing out of it. And he's mentioning we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm actually looking into having a screening for it. So everyone watches it live on YouTube, but then here in Dallas, we're looking at spaces to reserve, and so we'll announce it on social media, but want to invite people out just to come watch it with us. And then hopefully the idea is also to have a 30-minute talk with some people that are in Benin. And who will be watching it for the first time too, like what's their reaction to it. How are you after the trip? checking in,
getting settled back in. Like I talked to you early in the week. It's just a wild thing to, now that my kids are getting a little bit older, it's just a wild thing to be gone for them for 10 days and come back. And it's like, there's so much more to miss out on and stuff like that as they're getting older and having their personalities change and stuff. So it's just been nice to get back into the flow of everyday life and family life and work life and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I'll say this for people that are listening, and hopefully Abby's listening too, but one of the things that I admire about Jesse is that his attentiveness to his family, like it's actually really real. And I mean, when we got to France, he was like, there wasn't any internet on the thing. I got a text out and was like, damn, man, it's only been one flight. Is she all right? He was worried about getting in touch. He's like, I couldn't text her during the flight. I'm like, right. But no, but I think,
how it is.
But that's a beautiful thing, and I respect you, you know, like man to man. I you know, in every possible moment, because I try to carve out some time for us. I try to be like nice, texting polite, like, hey, you know what? We're gonna let Jesse just go over there and just don't leave him.
We were not expecting to have
everything.
That level of like
everything. But seeing him break away in his free moments without any sleep. First thing he's doing is on FaceTime.
Oh yeah, we're catching up right away. Yeah.
So I thought that was beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Cool. All right. Well, cheers to the blog.
Yeah.
Cheers to what's coming. And thank y'all for listening. And and if you want to perhaps learn more about Wadimba, you can actually just type it in, Wadimba Travel on Instagram, Wadimba Travel on Facebook. I believe they have a website too, but they're offering right now trips to Benin, but pretty soon they're going to be doing Guadeloupe and some other countries. Dude is masterful at this. He's really good. So Neil, thank you so much for curating such a wonderful experience. That was amazing.
All right, man.
All right, y'all. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to At the Table. Remember, you can catch up and watch full episodes on YouTube on the Fit Men Cook channel. And if you enjoy the podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on. In the meantime, be kind to yourself, to each other, and break bread. See you next week.